Good morning, everyone. We are excited to have all of you here, and welcome to the people on our live stream. My name is Neera Tandon. I am the Director of the Domestic Policy Advisor here at the White House, and I have the great privilege on working on higher education issues and working on them very closely with the Secretary of Education, his team, and our team. And so I am really thrilled to be here and really grateful for all of you joining us here at the White House for today's Save Day of Action. From day one, President Biden and Vice President Harris have been focused on bringing down the costs of college, really focused like a laser beam. I remember during the transition talking about these issues with them, and they've been really concerned about alleviating the burden of crushing student debt for tens of millions of Americans, and have really taken the boldest actions of any administration in history to address these challenges. Because they know that higher education is a pathway to the middle class, and they also know that student debt should not be a barrier to opportunity. And right now it is for millions of Americans. Already, the president has canceled more student debt for more borrowers than any president before him. That's, oh yay! The secretary is a great fan of the program as its leader. That's over $140 billion for almost 4 million people who have received relief under this administration. And I do want to just call out for his incredible leadership, the Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardona, and his fantastic team, James Quall and others, who have really been doing heroic work in this regard. And the president is also transforming the entire system. He's launched the most affordable student loan repayment plan in American history, the SAVE plan, which brings us all together today. Let me just say a few words about the SAVE program. I know a lot of people know it, but just to say it for everyone, SAVE is an income-driven repayment plan that will reduce monthly payments for borrowers more than ever before. SAVE calculates monthly payments on undergraduate loans based on 5% of a borrower's income, down from 10% from similar plans, and that starts in July. That is halving people's monthly payments, a huge shift in how people can live their lives, address their needs, and really address student debt burden. SAVE also waives unpaid interest, ensuring balances don't balloon over time because of runaway interest. So that challenge that so many Americans have, where their debt payments have really gone beyond what they actually originally owed, that goes away with SAVE as well. SAVE increases the amount of income protected from SAVE payments, and SAVE shortens the time to loan forgiveness for low balance borrowers. So this is an incredible transformation of the student debt system. And again, it's a real testament to the leadership of Secretary Cardona and his team that we've come into this administration and really decided to make income-driven repayment something that works for all Americans. But behind this broad program are facts, in the facts and figures are the experiences of individuals whose lives have been transformed by this relief. Take the case of Maria Morales. Maria grew up in California, the child of immigrants. Her first language was Spanish. She credits an elementary school teacher with helping her to catch up. Maria wanted to pay that gift forward. Last year, she graduated from college with dreams of becoming a teacher herself, sounding very close to the lived experience of our secretary. Maria joined her union, and she worked during school. She even took a year off during school to work, but still she graduated with a lot of student debt. So she enrolled in the SAVE program after graduating college, and her monthly payments are $0. Let me say that again. Her monthly payments are $0. Eventually, all of her loans will be forgiven. Maria said, and I quote, "This is all thanks to having a president who supports and champions working people, not one who tries to keep us down." And that is at the heart of our work on higher education and our work on relieving student debt. It is believing that our economy grows from the middle out and the bottom up, and that when we give people the tools so that they can get into the middle class, like higher education, not debt-ridden, then we actually grow our economy stronger. And Maria is a great example of that experience. So we know that this is a critical program, and the SAVE plan can be especially valuable for those struggling most with debt, low and middle income earners, borrowers of color, and women, and it gives them some more breathing room, which is so important. Breathing room to pay their bills, to buy a home or a car, and even save for their own children's education. And as we celebrate Women's History Month, it is especially important to note that nearly 2/3 of all U.S. student loan debt is held by women, and disproportionately women of color. So this is a program that deals with some of our greatest inequities. More than 7.7 million federal student loan borrowers are enrolled in the SAVE plan. Of that group, 4.5 million borrowers have $0 monthly payments. And over 1 million additional borrowers have a monthly payment of less than $100. That's the same amount most people pay for their phone bill. That brings us to today. I'm thrilled to announce an exciting new campaign to increase enrollments in this life-changing program. Today, we are announcing the SAVE Day of Action, where we have commitments to promote SAVE from more than 40 organizations, including business, unions, nonprofits, benefit managers, and federal agencies. So let's give a round of applause for all the people who are stepping up. For example, Credit Karma will leverage their app to highlight saving opportunities for loan borrowers who use their services. They'll make connections to enrollment experiences easier. You'll hear today from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce about the value of SAVE for their employees, for employers across the country. The American Federation of Teachers and the National Education Association will host a virtual town hall next week about the SAVE plan, which I'm excited to join. The Department of Veterans Affairs is sharing information about SAVE with 14 million veterans nationwide and with their families. These actions will help to ensure that those carrying student loan debt can find affordable repayment options and a pathway to forgiveness. So really, all of our work today is to get the word out about this program, because we know when more people are aware of it, more people will enroll. And when more people enroll, they will save money, and our country will ensure that more and more people can face education, higher education, without the fear and anxiety of crushing debt burden after they graduate. Really, going to college is a social compact for our country. We want more people in college, but we can't make them so debt-ridden that they fear the costs of going in the first place. So we're very excited about this work. We're excited about how many people have signed up for SAVE, but we have big goals to dramatically expand the numbers of people, and so we're really appreciative of everyone's work. So to share on this incredible effort, it is now my honor to turn over the floor to my friend, Secretary Cardona, who has championed the needs of millions of borrowers, who has demonstrated incredible leadership in managing the department to make these transformative changes. If you had asked me at the beginning of the administration, when we first started talking about this, would we be able to have created the SAVE program, really transformed the public service loan forgiveness program, would we have been able to take the actions we have, I would have said maybe in a second term, but he's delivered in the first. So I'm so happy to call to the podium the leader of all these efforts, Secretary Miguel Cardona.
Good morning. Good to see everyone. And I want to thank you, Neera, not only for those words, but really the partnership. Just being here to talk about what we're doing across the country is special. It doesn't get lost on me. We're sitting here next to the White House talking about opening doors for students for generations. And Neera, lifting it up is really important, but the work that you and your team do to partner with us, to push us, to make sure that we're being partners, since you've taken over as DPC lead. It's been such a wonderful experience to work with you and your team. So thank you and Robert and the rest of the team from DPC for all of your advocacy, your work, and your support. And thank you to our partner agencies, our congressional champions, our associations and groups for being here today to help get the word out. That's what we're here for, to help get the word out about SAVE, to get more student loan debt forgiven. Each and every one of the 7.7 million borrowers now enrolled in SAVE has a story that matters. I always say we got to go from talking about policy to talking about people. We're talking about people, families. Each and every one of those 7.7 million lives have changed in ways big and small. By amplifying these stories and these voices, we can make sure that every single person who's eligible to enroll in the most affordable income-driven repayment plan in history signs up. For decades, we've known that higher education unlocks potential and opens doors, but it's unaffordable, and inaccessible to too many people. Too many students are graduating with debt and no degree. Too many people who don't even pursue higher education because of the cost. Imagine the lost potential of this country because of that. Too many people with student loan payments are competing with basic needs like food and housing. But the Biden-Harris administration decided that that reality was unacceptable. Thanks to our unapologetic commitment from day one to put people at the center of policy, to choose substance over sensationalism, borrowers now have a little bit of breathing room. And young people can envision possibilities where they once only saw obstacles. As mentioned before, this administration has approved nearly $144 billion in student loan debt relief for almost 4 million Americans, more than any other administration in our country's history. If you combine them, it's still more. SAVE is the first real student loan safety net in this country. It's a lifeline for folks who have sacrificed and saved for a decade or more to make their student loan payments. People serving their country as teachers, as nurses, as service members. People who took out smaller loans to attend community colleges. Those who are at higher risk for delinquency and default. Now, a family of 4 who makes $68,000 or less and enrolls in the SAVE program will see monthly payments drop to $0. Borrowers who make $15 an hour, you know, all those people that we called essential, remember? You know, the ones that are stocking up our shelves, those early child care workers, right? Those folks will see their monthly payments drop to $0. First-year teachers, and I checked the stats, in some states, first-year teachers start at $38,000 a year. They're now going to have disposable income back in their pockets for grocery or for rent. So we could stop normalizing having our teachers drive Uber on the weekends or bartend just to make money. And let me tell you, we're also working on, we're also working on making sure we're paying educators a competitive salary in this country. This program means an end to the nightmare of working hard, making loan payments, and yet watching your loan balance get bigger and bigger each month. I visited 46 states, and the conversations that I have with folks who are doing their very best is like, you know, I can't even keep up with the interest. I can't even keep up with the interest. Well, now we have the SAVE plan, and it's going to stop runaway interest costs. So I'm so proud of that. It's an end to balancing student loans with basic needs like housing or health care. It's an end to dreams deferred. And that's why this administration won't stop fighting to transform a broken system. You know, when the president hired me, he said, we have a broken system. We need to move rapidly to make sure more students have access. He recognizes the potential of this country. I always say we want to lead the world. Our goal is not to get back to pre-pandemic levels. That's a low bar. Now, there are those who doubt us. There are. But that's what happens when you do something that's never been done before, especially when it expands access and opportunity to challenge the status quo. You see, some benefit from a system that's broken. What we're trying to do is level the playing field, because I know firsthand, education opens doors to possibilities. This administration understands that debt forgiveness isn't just about the millions of borrowers who we help today, but the doors we open for tomorrow's students. Generations ahead of us will benefit from this. It's about rewriting the narrative that higher education is out of reach for too many. I'll never forget the time when I was a school principal, and I had this young student who, probably one of the brightest kids in my school. He came to visit me with his father, and they were in my office, and he said it very matter of fact, said, I can't go to college, it's too expensive. The kid was about 11 years old, 12 years old. He and his father accepted the fact that college was out of reach. One of the smartest kids I had in high school. I'll never forget that story. Students like this one would benefit from SAVE. The fact that this student accepted it is what concerned me. And as a first-generation college student, look, 30 years ago, I was a little afraid about this thing, college. I didn't know. When I saw thousands and thousands, that was hard for me to think, I can handle that. But I have to say, I'm going to take a point of privilege here to acknowledge someone in the audience who believed in me even when I did not believe in myself. I have my senior year art teacher, Ms. Linda Ransom, in the crowd. Linda, where are you? Please stand up. Stand up. We have to normalize publicly praising our educators who change our lives. Linda, thank you for being here. And because of an educator like Linda, I was able to see past the fear of college and the cost of college. But in this country, we've paid a price for students like that student that visited me who couldn't realize his full potential because of the fear. Well, SAVE creates a pathway for those students and generations to come. And we're just getting started. But for more borrowers to benefit from SAVE, they need to know about SAVE. I'm proud of our team's incredible work to get SAVE set up and to identify borrowers who qualified. And I want to give acknowledgement to James Quall, who's going to be speaking soon. And James and I talk often, I talked earlier about doubters. There are people that are flat out trying to stop what we're doing. And that tells me that we're doing the right things, because we're helping those who often don't have a voice and can speak up. So James and I both know how important this work is. James, you and your team, I just want to acknowledge you and thank you for the work that you're doing. And I'm grateful for all of you who are here fighting this fight alongside us. Such important work, We don't need to look far to think about our why, right? Enrolling is easy. It takes 10 minutes. You can find out if you qualify and sign up today at studentaid.gov/save. I'm going to say that again for those who are watching online. studentaid.gov/save. SAVE is the most affordable income-driven repayment plan in our country's history. It's nothing short of transformational. Your work to elevate voices and tell these stories is changing lives. I want to tell you that this partnership to transform higher education requires the vision of a president, the unapologetic actions of those who, like Nira, James, and our teams, are willing to fight the good fight because we know who's benefiting from it. But it also relies very heavily on all of us here in this room and all who are watching. They say it takes a village. I consider you the village elders. Let's get the word out. Higher education is more affordable and more accessible than ever before. And it's on us to change the culture and change the narrative in this country, that everybody deserves a shot. Not because you're born into wealth, but because you have the interest and the potential. We're going to keep doing that, and we're going to keep doing it together. So thank you for being here, and thank you for your work, not only today, but moving forward. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Robert Gordon, the Deputy Assistant to the President for Economic Mobility. Robert?
Good morning, everyone. It is a great honor to listen to Secretary Cardona, to be a part of his team and the team with all of you fighting to expand opportunities for students to be able to repay their debt affordably. We're going to take up the Secretary's invitation to talk now about not just policy, but also about people and the difference that SAVE makes in people's lives. We have 3 economists and experts to talk about what they have learned. Raj Darolia, immediately by my side, is the chief economist at the Department of Education on leave from the University of Kentucky. Bo Jackson is a member of the President's Council of Economic Advisors on leave from Northwestern. And Dominique Baker is a professor of education and public policy at the University of Delaware. So I'm going to start with Raj. Raj, you heard both the Secretary and Director Tandon say that SAVE is the most affordable repayment plan in history. Some people might be thinking that's just hype. Tell us your perspective.
Thanks, Robert, and thanks everybody for coming today. It's not just hype. The SAVE plan is the most affordable plan ever, because in addition to loan forgiveness that my esteemed colleague will speak to in a moment, it substantially reduces monthly payments for most borrowers. It reduces payments relative to prior IDR plans through a number of features, including protecting a greater amount of income and by cutting the rate that borrowers must pay on their discretionary incomes. And these benefits are targeted to the borrowers with the least financial means. As an income-based repayment plan, payments match up with the borrower's abilities to repay. If a borrower makes less, then they pay less. As their ability to pay evolves, then their payments will evolve as well. The plan also provides a safety net against bad luck and income shocks. So under SAVE, a protected amount of income, or a larger amount of income, is protected for basic needs and necessities. It's up to 225% of the poverty line. That's about $33,000 for a single borrower and $68,000 for a borrower who has a family of 4. If borrowers make below this income protection amount, they pay $0 each month. For borrowers who make more than the 225% federal poverty line, they only pay 5% of their income above that level if they're an undergrad borrower. Another key feature is that unpaid interest is not charged to borrowers. Borrowers have consistently reported the toll that growing balances have on them. Under SAVE, balances will not grow as long as minimum payments are made. In other plans, unpaid interest has to be paid in the future, and oftentimes that unpaid interest generates interest itself that needs to be paid as well. So this means that this benefit extends to millions of borrowers every month who are effectively getting loan forgiveness through the SAVE plan. Putting this all together, on SAVE, many relatively low and middle income borrowers will pay less than half monthly than they would have under other IDR plans. Many borrowers will pay a fraction of what they would have paid on the 10-year standard plan monthly as well. And this is especially true early on in people's careers when they're just starting out and in times of financial hardship as well. So Robert, I would say it's not just hype. This really is the most affordable plan ever.
Thank you, Raj. Now I'm going to turn it to Bo. Bo, we've talked about this in the halls. You've got a new report out on CEA. One of the points you've made to me is that we tend to think about loan forgiveness over here and then loan repayment plans over here, but in fact, SAVE is not just a loan repayment plan. It also has substantial forgiveness components. So ask you to expand on your report and what you've learned.
That's exactly right. Thank you for that. So, going to college has always been a reliable way for people to enter the middle class. And education financing offers the opportunity to broaden access for Americans to get a college education. But due to rises in the cost of going to college, the size of people's loans has grown, and this has been crushing for many Americans. So to help address some of the ills of this system. The Secretary referred to this as a broken system. The administration has already forgiven about $144 billion in debt for 4 million Americans. But the administration has also taken proactive action to not just ease things for cohorts that have graduated in the past, but also to make college more affordable for cohorts in the future. So, Raj discussed basically how the SAVE plan brings down those monthly payments to make them more manageable, which is a key component of SAVE. But what I want to talk about, which you're bringing up, Robert, is the way that this interacts with the fact that at the end of the repayment period, which is also shortened for many people under SAVE, the SAVE plan embeds a considerable amount of loan forgiveness as well and goes towards making college affordable not just for past generations, but also generations to come. So I want to go through a few examples that come from the issue brief that the council put out this morning, highlighting the power of SAVE. So first, we have a childcare worker who took out $10,000 in loans to pay for an associate's degree. With a loan balance of under $12,000, this borrower is eligible for early forgiveness in just about 10 years. And I also want to highlight the fact that workers in the childcare industry are disproportionately female and also disproportionately women of color. This worker would typically make about $30,000 a year, and under a standard plan, the payments would be about $110 a month. Under a standard or the old IDR plan, this would be about $75 a month. But under SAVE, this borrower's payments would be $0 a month. And after 10 years, under the SAVE plan, the outstanding loan balance is going to be forgiven. So in total, the CEA estimates that this borrower is going to save about $13,000 compared to a standard loan. And in other words, they're getting basically 100% of their loan balance forgiven. The second example I want to talk about is an accountant who makes about $47,000 a year in their first year out of college. The accountant has a bachelor's degree, so they had to take out nearly $24,000 in loans. This accountant, under our calculation, is saving about $200 a month under SAVE, with payments on average going from about $260 a month to about $60 a month under SAVE in the first 10 years. At the end of the repayment window, which in this case is going to be about 20 years, given the size of the loan, they're going to see upwards of 80% of their initial loan balance forgiven, and this borrower is going to save about $5,000 compared to the standard plan in lifetime payments. Finally, I want to talk about a public school teacher who makes close to $43,000 a year in their first year. The teacher has a bachelor's and a master's degree, and they're going to have to take out about $56,000 in loans. And just to be clear, this is a typical loan size for a teacher. So the teacher, under the standard plan, would be making payments of about $600 a month under a standard plan, compared to about $0 under the SAVE plan. So the other thing that is really important here is SAVE interacts very well with the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, which allows people who have taken out loans to fund their education and go into public service to be teachers, lawyers, doctors, healthcare workers, to get loan forgiveness in a shorter amount of time. This teacher would be eligible for loan forgiveness in 10 years, and after the 10-year period, this teacher would see basically 100% of her loan balance forgiven. So this is just one way that the SAVE plan, in conjunction with public service loan forgiveness, is allowing Americans who've taken out debt to finance their college education and serve their communities to move forward in life debt-free. So these are just a few examples of people who have gone on to see the benefits of the SAVE plan, not just the older generations, but generations going forward.
Thank you, Bo. Dominique, you've done research on SAVE and on debt, and in particular on the way that debt and debt forgiveness interact with issues of equity and racial disparities in our society. So would love to hear you talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So when the official totality of SAVE is implemented, so we have other parts that are sort of coming online later this summer, I think typically about sort of three main things, though there are lots others that I would love to talk to y'all about later if you want to hear me talk on about really wonky policy things that think about how we can advance racial equity. So the first, y'all have heard people talk this morning about protecting more of the income that people are getting in. So that basically, when we calculate what a loan payment will be every month, there's more money that gets protected for people to pay for things like groceries, like their insurance, things of that nature. That benefits the most people who have smaller incomes. Unfortunately, due to interlocking systems of oppression in our country, the people who are more likely to have smaller incomes are also people of color, which means that they will disproportionately benefit, which is a good thing because we want them to be able to eat and do things like be able to travel to their job. So that is something that is incredibly important. The second is, you've heard a lot of people today talk about ballooning balances. They've talked about what happens when the payment that you make every month doesn't cover the interest, that gets added into the total amount that you have to borrow, and over time, you could wind up owing more than you actually took out to start. And so with the SAVE plan, this is something where the government will basically say, if your monthly payment doesn't cover the interest, the government will cover that for you. This matters a ton for racial equity. So just to give you an example, in the most recent nationally representative data, looking at students who earned a bachelor's degree in 2015-2016, we see that for the typical student, Black students, Native American and Alaskan Native students, and Native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islander students, they actually owe more than they originally borrowed 4 years after earning a bachelor's degree. That matters. The fact that people can be doing everything right, they can be making their payments the way they need to, they did everything by earning a degree the way that they were supposed to, yet they still owe more than they originally did to earn their degree. That's a problem, and that's a problem that SAVE helps to fix. And then the third thing I think of, which, okay, sorry, a little bit policy wonky, but stay with me. Nobody's really talked as much about these automatic renewals that can happen for the SAVE plan. So basically, when you typically do some sort of income-based payment system for our student loan system, you have to certify your income every year. You have to fill out some paperwork, send it into the government, and say, this is how much I made, so this is how much my payments should be. One of the really nice things is if you opt in to sharing your information between the IRS and the Department of Education, what happens is once you've signed up for SAVE, the department can recertify you so you don't have to. We have a lot of really strong social science research that shows that when we create all of these additional applications for people to get the benefits that they deserve, we see that people of color especially never get those benefits. That through the rigmarole of all trying to apply for things, trying to get things certified, they sort of fall through the cracks. And so it's a very small thing that actually I think will have a substantial effect, that once people are on the SAVE program, they'll actually more likely to continue receiving the benefits over time in a way that we don't always see for federal programs.
Awesome. Thank you. I know we are short on time. I want to ask one quick question and then one closing question. Quick question. Is SAVE right for everybody? I know one thing we always want to say is that people should check their own circumstances. But in general, who are we talking to here?
Sure, I'll pipe in on that. So I think the answer is exactly right, Robert. Like, I think it can benefit everyone. So one of the things that the SAVE plan does is it affords flexibility for those people who want to lower their payments in the short term, which means that if you're the kind of person who thinks that you're going to have a lot of income growth, and when early on in your career your earnings are low and your earnings are going to increase, SAVE may be right for you. However, there are a lot of people out there who are debt averse. They don't want to take out large amounts of debt. They want to make their payments quickly and get out from under this situation. If they make enough money that they can do so without having to enroll in IDR, that's absolutely something they can do. One of the beautiful things about the program is it is something that is voluntary, but it also means that if you would like to shield yourself and take advantage of some of the risk protections, that if you have a shock and you can't make payments because something terrible has happened in your life, you have that protection as well. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily for everyone, but it's certainly something that cannot hurt anyone, and it opens up flexibility for people to take advantage of.
And again, if you want to learn more about what SAVE can mean for you, you can go to studentaid.gov/save. So to close, we've talked a lot about individual impacts of SAVE. I want to ask about the impact on the economy. What does it mean for the economy as a whole when people can struggle less with debt burdens, are able to save more themselves, are able to invest more in their families, in their own future education?
I can start with this. So Secretary Cardona talked about lost potential, and that's something I worry about a lot as well. So I think one of the biggest impacts to me on the broader economy and society is that we want to encourage families and students to make good, smart investments in themselves. We want them to invest in themselves, in their education, their human capital. And so how do we do that? A lot of students and families are worried about the risks of going to college. We've talked about fear, we've talked about costs. The nerdy economists up here like to talk about this in terms of risk. And so the SAVE plan really has a big benefit in terms of guarding against risk. We've talked about insurance against income shocks or bad luck. We've talked about insurance against your income fluctuating or just going down for some amount of time. Maybe you don't get that job that you thought you would. So this fear, this risk can lead people to not attend college or pursue their dreams in a way that is not just not good for themselves, but it's not good for their communities and good for the country as a whole. So giving some certainty, reducing that uncertainty through the SAVE plan and giving this insurance against that risk is, I think, a huge benefit that should hopefully encourage students and their families to invest in themselves and really grow the economy, their communities as a whole as well.
That's great. I'm just going to say one thing in closing. I served in the Obama administration, and we were very proud of the important work we did to expand access to college and to make college more affordable. I think if you look at the level of protection and forgiveness built into SAVE, it is really next level compared to what happened even in a successful administration. And similarly, if you think about the PSLF program, and a program that was broken, and then I remember for years talking about and wondering, what are we ever going to do about this? And this administration fixed it. And these are massive steps that are helping millions and millions of Americans. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to someone who has played as large a part as anyone in this administration in getting that done, James Quall, the Undersecretary of Education.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much, Robert, for your years of friendship and all you've taught me. Thank you, Neera, for bringing new energy and new ideas to the fight on college costs and student debt. I want to say thank you to Rich Cordray, who hasn't been mentioned yet, but is the man who is taking these from paper to changing millions of lives. And I want to say thank you to everyone in this room who has been a part of getting 7.7 million people enrolled in the SAVE plan in only about 6 months. That's incredible. You know, it's been about 30 years since Congress created the first income-driven repayment plan, where monthly payments were set on a sliding scale based upon income. But until President Biden, these ideas never really lived up to their potential or their promise. IDR sought to guarantee that student loans would be affordable, but many borrowers still struggled with both payments and the basic necessities. And even borrowers who made their payments often saw their loans grow because interest was larger than their payments. It promised a fairer system, but students who attended college for only a semester or two often had to make payments for decades. It promised to forgive any remaining balances after borrowers paid what they could afford, but hundreds of thousands of borrowers were left with large debts even after 20 or 25 years of payments. Its proponents thought it might eliminate loan defaults entirely, but prior to the pandemic and the loan pause, we had 1 million people a year defaulting on their student loans. That's all changed now, thanks to President Biden and Vice President Harris. Now, if you earn less than about $15 an hour or more if you have a family to support, you don't owe any payments at all because the necessities have to come before student loans. For borrowers who pay what they owe, loan balances will never grow due to unpaid interest. Borrowers with smaller loans will get loan forgiveness faster, and 85% of community college students will be debt-free within 10 years. Borrowers who miss payments will be auto-enrolled in the SAVE plan, which will prevent millions of loan defaults over time. And at last, we've credited borrowers with the payments that they've made, which has led to loan forgiveness for 930,000 borrowers already. And there's more to come. Starting in July, we will have monthly payments on undergraduate loans. That means a hypothetical student graduating from college this year could save $40,000 over the life of their loans. Another priority of the President's has been ensuring that student debt does not stand in the way of public service, and the SAVE plan goes with public service loan forgiveness like peanut butter and chocolate, or Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. A typical teacher will now pay only 33 cents for every dollar she might have paid prior to the SAVE plan. I met a teacher in Atlanta a couple of weeks ago who had been enrolled in the SAVE plan due to the efforts of the NEA and talked about the impact on her life that saving $500 a month will have on her financial security. For decades, our nation failed to invest in higher education, and instead the answer was asking students to take on more and more debt. Students struggle with the loans for many reasons. They may not graduate, they may get a low-quality education, they may just not want to go into a high-paying career. And student loans reinforce racial disparities in income and wealth. To take advantage of higher education's potential as a force for equity and upward mobility, we need to make sure that no one who goes to college is left worse off. We need to provide student loan forgiveness to people who have earned it. We need to invest in Pell Grants and tuition-free community college. We need to hold for-profit colleges and others responsible for predatory practices accountable. And we need the SAVE plan. We would not be here without our great partnerships with the Save on Student Debt campaign. Civic Nation and their partners, the NAACP, Unidos US, Chamber of Commerce, NEA, AFT, so many others, have connected communities across the country with the benefits available to them under the SAVE plan, and paved a way for a future where we can reach millions more borrowers who can benefit from these programs. So our next panel is going to speak directly to how we can reach communities and borrowers across the country and help them save money on their student loans and get out from underneath unaffordable student loan debt. And to lead the panel, I'm pleased to introduce Mayor Benjamin, who is a senior advisor to the President responsible for public engagement, former mayor of Columbia, South Carolina, and someone I know as a force for student debt relief, for HBCUs, and other investments that will promote equity in higher education. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Undersecretary, for your incredible leadership at the Department of Education. I'm going to do my very best to get as close to being back on time. So in lieu of being the politician I normally am, everyone put your hands up. Shaking like this. I'm shaking hands with everyone in the room. So we saved about 30 minutes right there. Really want to thank all of you for being here with us today. It's an honor to have everyone here to celebrate these incredible commitments led by so many folks here, and my colleague Neera Tandon as well. It's going to change people's lives. So thank you for your leadership and taking the time to be here. These commitments have included spotlighting the SAVE plan through social media, newsletters, letters, webinars, benefits, web pages, financial resources, materials, really just a start of just flooding the zone, making sure people know how this can help change their lives. We are proud to have secured over 40 sets of commitments, reaching over 100 million people, and we know that working together, we can make sure that higher education is a pathway to the middle class, not a barrier to opportunity. So today we're joined by John Foti. Is that right, John? Is that, all right. Senior Legislative Program Manager at SEIU. Chuck Melly, the Senior VP for Global Government Relations and Policy at Pearson. Chantel Sheeks, Vice President, Retirement Policy at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And Jalakoy Solomon, Executive Vice President of Campaigns and Partnerships at Civic Nation. My pleasure to kick off this panel and share more on the why of these major commitments. And the first question is going to go to Jalakoy, and I'll join you guys up there. Jalakoy, in partnership with the Department of Ed, Civic Nation launched the Save on Student Debt campaign last fall. What's the campaign about, and how does it support student loan borrowers in learning to save, learning more about SAVE and with enrolling?
Yes, so the Save on Student Debt campaign is a partnership, as as has been said, between the U.S. Department of Education, Civic Nation, and a lot of amazing founding partners, including the NAACP, the National Urban League, RISE, the Student Debt Crisis Center, Unidos, and Young Invincibles. And we are on a mission to ensure that borrowers are saving money by enrolling in the SAVE program and by providing folks the training and the support that they need, both to partners, but also to ensure that borrowers are able to access all the new programs that are available to them. And so really we do this in 3 key ways. The first is that we're empowering trusted messengers like all of you in this room with the training and the resources that you need to be effective messengers to your communities. Currently we have a coalition of over 150 organizations with a collective reach of over 20 million Americans, and we provide toolkits and trainings and resources to ensure that you all are able to do the great work that you are already doing in your communities. Second, we do large-scale mobilizations like the one we have going on today. So we've hosted 3 National Weeks of Action. We've got our Day of Action today, and our coalition has hosted hundreds of events across the country to help enroll borrowers and to train organizations and employers, providing them the information they need to spread the word through their employees. And then really the third piece is, like has been said multiple times today, is that we're really going from the broad scale down to the individual person. So we've created a model for providing in-person, one-on-one support to borrowers. We've been hosting in-person student loan clinics together with the Department of Education, where we've been, popping up on the laptop and helping folks one-on-one to really dig into their loans and manage and figure out what is the best next step for them. And so far, over our clinics, we've helped borrowers access over $2 million in debt forgiveness and to get enrolled into the SAVE plan. So we are, for those of you that we are already connected with, we're excited to continue to do more work with you. And for those that we have not yet, please go to saveonstudentdebt.org to get connected with us, because we'd love to work with you on this campaign.
Deficit cutting and debt reduction administration, only 4 microphones. So I'm going to come back up here and do what I do. John, the SEIU has made a great commitment to share information through SAVE, on SAVE through webinars, blogs, and social media. Tell us why the SAVE plan, why it's so important to SEIU and its more than 2 million members.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mayor Benjamin, and a big appreciation to the President and Vice President for having us here for this Day of Action. SEIU members are child care providers, home care workers, janitors, educators, early childhood educators, public service workers, and so much more. So being involved in today's Day of Action is important because it's education policies like the SAVE plan that are designed to support these professionals and help them pursue an education to get ahead and support their families. The SAVE plan has already made a real difference and impact on our members' lives. And our members are our best spokespeople. They know what impacts them. They know what they're dealing with in their daily lives. They know how it affects not only their personal lives, but also their community around them. So they are the best people to be able to go to their community members and get them enrolled in this plan, and talking about, for what feels like the first time in a generation, the government designing a program to specifically work for for these types of working people. So, it goes a long way in showing other individuals who may be afraid about going through this process, who may be concerned, when they hear that there was a new program to sign up, that one of their fellow union members or one of their fellow child care providers went through that process, and it only took them 10 minutes and saved them hundreds of dollars a month, thousands of dollars a year, and is going to have a really transformative impact on them and their families. So, this just goes to show what government can do when folks like SEIU members are leading the way, lifting up their voices, and showing not just the data on the page and the hundreds of thousands of people this is going to impact, but really those deep personal stories and what it's going to mean for them and their families.
That's fantastic. Sometimes it's the messenger, not the message, right? That makes a difference. So thank you so much for your leadership there. Chantel, you've committed to sharing information on SAVE with members, as well as finding other opportunities to educate employees on how to manage student loan and other debt. Why is helping employees understand options for how to manage student loan debt important to the Chamber?
Well, first of all, I want to point out that I think that this is such an important program that the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and SEIU are sitting right next to each other. So I think that's saying a lot.
That's a selfie moment. You need to get that selfie.
Yeah, I'm sure someone in the audience, if you didn't get it, will go back over like this. But on a more serious note, in more recent years, our employers and the service providers have been looking at a more holistic approach, and they've been especially looking at the impact of debt and what debt has on employees. And they've looked, focusing on student loan debt has been a very big issue. We saw it in the CARES Act of having the repayments as tax-free. We've seen it in Secure 2.0 with the match. But our employers realize that there's more out there, and it's about educating and giving people tools. Because if you have this tool, and what we like to think, we want to stop siloing benefit programs. Because everyone just says, oh, here's my health care, here's my retirement, here's this, here's that. Our employees don't think about it that way. Our employees think about, this is how much money I have, and how should I deal with it? And each employee is going to be different, and that's why we're encouraging our employers to share this information, because if you can save $1 on your student loans, then maybe you can also put it in emergency savings, and then you could also put it in your retirement. And if you're 25, and I was looking at that number for an accountant who could then possibly put $200 more at age 25 in their retirement account, compounding is an amazing thing. So that's why it's really important for our employers, because it's a more holistic approach. And if we can have less precarious, financially precarious employees, guess what? They're much more engaged, and they're much more happy, and they're much more productive. And so I really think it's a win-win for everyone.
Amen. Well, thank you so much. Chuck, Pearson's sharing information in the SAVE plan with employees as part of the onboarding and human resources materials. Why did Pearson make this commitment?
Let's see, well, we're actually a mission-driven company at Pearson. We're a global education company with 15,000 people based in the U.S. And just like any other company, it's all about the employees, but especially us. We don't make cars, we don't make airplanes. You know, what we do is, educational materials and things like that to help people succeed. And most people who come to work for Pearson do it because they care. And most of them, like me, had to pay for their own college, colleges and universities. And we're looking for a way to make sure that they're not only happy employees inside the work, but also happy outside the work. And it just aligns with a lot of some of the other things we're doing. Just one quick thing is, as far as we want our employees to become developed and happy, but we also want to participate in society. So we've got a program where we have every employee can have up to 5 days a year paid to do their own volunteer work, wherever they would like to. And so, because of the fact that we're an education company, because of the volunteer days, a lot of, my colleagues, friends, and families see them as a source of information when it comes to education. So we're doing this not only for our employees, but also for all their friends and families, so that they can share the news, so they can be a sort of a force multiplier, if you will.
That's fantastic, inspiring, I might say. So to everyone in reverse order, start with you, Chuck. What do you want others to know if they're considering making commitment to raise awareness around SAVE or considering enrolling in SAVE? What would you like?
I appreciate that, Mayor. One thing I just want to focus on, it's been touched on before, is, especially by the Secretary and others, is that this really helps teachers. Not only does it help like the existing teachers through the public PSLF, I think it is, but also the pipeline, because my parents were teachers. They were math and science high school teacher in Windsor, Connecticut. My wife's a teacher. I didn't have enough courage to become a teacher, so that's why I work for a company who helps teachers. And so what I want to do is what I'm happy about this is I see that this helps the pipeline, helps people, good, talented, concerned people who want to become teachers to see that, I don't necessarily have to worry about the debt load that I would incur, because there's this great program that will help me out to do what I want to do, so I can really help other people and contribute in the classroom.
Fantastic. Jalakwe, what would you want folks to know?
I think I'll close this out.
Okay, all right. Well, then Chantel.
Well, one thing that is really important to a lot of
Jalakwe, I'm running this thing here, okay? So.
Are you?
Apparently not. Apparently not.
We already had it planned out yesterday. One of the things that I think is really important with this program, because what our employers face often is compliance. They're scared to death of compliance. By way of background, I'm a recovering attorney. I think I'm on step 4. I just can't get past it. For over 27 years, I have been counseling employers in HR and benefit issues. and you want to educate, you want to talk to people, you want to tell them what's out there, but you're just kind of afraid, do I say the wrong word? What if they understand it the wrong way? And so one of the things we're very excited is about letting our HR departments and our other service providers know, here's some model language you can get from Civic Nation. You're not out there. This isn't a gotcha moment, because they are very nervous about putting anything else out there. And trust me, I was the one who was reviewing it a lot of times and probably making them nervous. But hopefully, I think with the help with Civic Nation, we can get the word out a little bit more to HR departments.
Okay, fantastic. Now, John.
I would say our country needs union members and young people speaking up and leading the way. I have to say, as a newly minted 30-year-old, I remember very much like the secretary was talking about earlier, when I was a young person, and how much it took me to get past that thought in your mind of how am I going to take on all this mounting debt and still get to where I want to be going forward. And I was able to do that thanks to my union in SEIU and being able to provide me that pathway coming out of college. And so remember, SEIU members, union members, these are the very people we called essential and heroes during the pandemic, who were putting their lives and their families' lives on the line day in and day out to keep powering our society through what felt like the worst of the worst. And so it's not just enough to think back to that time and be thankful we're no longer dealing with that. We now have to figure out how we rewrite the rules to support those workers who did all of that work during the pandemic. And guess what? They're still doing it now. And so this is really about lifting up our voices, making clear that we are not the only ones dealing with these struggles. And that's the one thing I would really say, which is every transformative policy, this one included, starts with an impacted individual realizing that they are not alone, and there are thousands, if not millions, of other people dealing with and experiencing the same thing. So if you're a union member out there, if you're a young person out there and you're feeling discouraged, realize that this administration is taking those concerns seriously and putting into action the very things that would help us survive and thrive in the economy going forward.
Again, I want to thank you, everyone here, for being here and giving of your time, your talents, and treasures. My very sharp, beautiful, intelligent wife, I often say that the two most powerful words in the English language are thank you. She tells me that actually, yes, ma'am. So, Ms. Jalakoy Solomon, last word for you.
Thank you. So, if you're thinking about making a commitment, the Save on Student Debt campaign is here to support you. As Chantel said, we are working with national organizations, with private companies, with labor unions, with local organizations. We have a monthly coalition call that we do in partnership with the Department of Education, where you can come to get updates about what's happening in the student loan space, where we are sharing best practices. We are working together to think about how to best spread the word. And like we did for this day of action, we have ready-made mobilizations and content for folks to just hop in, but we're also so excited to work with you one-on-one to create tailored events and programming for your audiences. So please connect with us. We'd love to work with you. Also, right after this event, I think we're just about to close this up. We're going to be staying in this room to do some breakouts to keep digging in. So we've all made our commitments today, but this is not just one day. This is a commitment to ensure that we are helping the borrowers in our country. And so please stay with us after the event to keep brainstorming and digging in.
And we are back on time, ladies and gentlemen. That is how Joe Biden, Kamala Harris run a railroad. All right? So, back to Director Tandon. Thank you. God bless y'all.
Thank you all. I really want to say a hearty thanks to Mayor Steve Benjamin. Let's give him a round of applause. He and his fantastic team have been, Steve, I'm giving you a shout out right as you speak. I just want to say thank you to you and your fantastic team who've been integral to working with us and to garnering the commitments from across the private sector, the public sector, and as demonstrated in this panel. So thank you to Steve and his excellent team. I also want to just name a few people as well. Obviously, we're grateful to everyone in the department. I want to say a special thank you to Rich Cordray, who does just bears a lot on his shoulders on this program and others. So really grateful for him, and also want to do a particular shout out to my team, Vivian Angriano, Jessica Cardashan, Robert, Raul, for all the work they've done to make this day happen. So I just want to close this by saying I was with the president in North Carolina yesterday, where we talked about the Affordable Care Act. And the president tried to hearken, was talking about the days before the Affordable Care Act passed. And wanted to remind people what it was like when people, people had to stay, many millions of people stayed up at night wondering if they could afford getting sick because they didn't have health insurance, or what it would mean for them and their family now that they have a pre-existing condition, whether they'd be insured again in the future. And that anxiety and that stress is something that really shouldn't have to happen in a country like ours. And so we mobilized and took a lot of work, and we passed the Affordable Care Act. The real idea of SAVE is that people shouldn't, young people, their families shouldn't have to face the anxiety of how they're going to afford higher education and whether it will be out of reach for them. And when they do face that anxiety and it creates a burden and a hurdle for them, our whole country loses because that person chooses to avoid higher education. And so that is really the promise of the SAVE program, which is to alleviate that concern by having a truly functioning income-based repayment system that ultimately will relieve student debt for millions of people. And so that is what we are all here called to do, which is to try to get the word out for this program to ensure that we are giving people that real pathway fundamentally to opportunity in their lives so that they can reach their potential. There's really no more important thing we do in government. So with that, I just wanted to finally end with saying how grateful again we are all to the commitments and demonstrated work that people will do, not what we've done, but what we will do in the months ahead to get the word out so this program will reach every single person who will benefit. Thank you all very, very much.